Have you ever wondered what's really going on inside the brain when someone you care about starts to lose their memories? It's something many of us have seen, and it's so deeply human, but its roots are all in biology. Today, we're going to take a journey deep inside the brain to really understand Alzheimer's disease.
Right, so we see the outward signs, the confusion, asking the same question over and over. But what is actually happening at a biological level? To get that, we need to zoom in. I mean, way in, right down to the cells that make us who we are.
So at its very core, Alzheimer's is the most common kind of dementia. And you know what it all starts with? Proteins. Weird, right? It's caused by a buildup of these abnormal protein deposits that just completely gum up the works of the brain's amazing communication network. Okay, so let's meet the two main troublemakers here, proteins called amyloid and tau. Now, here's the thing. We all have these proteins. They're normal. But in Alzheimer's, they start to go rogue. Think of amyloid as this sticky gunk that clumps together outside our brain cells, forming these things called plaques. And at the exact same time, inside the cells, the tau proteins get all twisted up into tangles, which basically wrecks the cell's internal highway system for transporting nutrients. And you gotta understand, this buildup is not harmless, not at all. These plaques and tangles are literally toxic. They don't just sit there. They actively damage our nerve cells, they block communication, and eventually they cause them to die. And this whole process unfolds in this really devastating chain reaction. So first the cells get damaged by all those plaques and tangles. Then, as the damage spreads, the cells just start dying off. And when you lose millions and then billions of cells, the brain itself actually starts to physically shrink. It's wild to think that a microscopic problem leads to a massive change in the brain's actual structure.
Now, this damage doesn't just happen everywhere at once. It's sneaky. It usually starts in one very specific and very, very important part of the brain, the hippocampus. You can basically think of the hippocampus as the brain's main hub for making new memories.
So it makes total sense, right? Because the hippocampus is so crucial for forming new memories. When it gets damaged, you start seeing those classic early signs of Alzheimer's. This is exactly why someone might not remember a conversation you just had, or why they might ask the same question again. Their memory-making machine is being attacked.
And this brings us to one of the most confusing things about the disease. How can someone describe a childhood memory with perfect clarity, but have no idea what they had for breakfast? Well, it's because those recent memories, like breakfast, are made in the hippocampus, the very place that's under siege. But the older, long-term memories, they're stored in other parts of the brain that don't get affected until much, much later.
But the damage isn't just physical. Oh no. Alzheimer's also messes with the brain's chemistry. See, your brain uses these chemical messengers, they're called neurotransmitters, to pass signals between cells. In a brain with Alzheimer's, the levels of these messengers just take a nosedive. I mean, just look at the difference on this chart. It's a huge drop, and it makes it even harder for the remaining cells to talk to each other.
So this chemical problem just makes a bad situation so much worse. The cells that are left are really struggling to communicate, and that leads to even bigger problems with memory and thinking. It's kind of like your computer has a broken hard drive, and on top of that, your Wi-Fi signal is terrible. Nothing's getting through.
As the disease moves forward, it starts to spread to other areas, including a place called the amygdala. Now, this is the brain's emotional headquarters, and when it starts getting affected, that's when you can start to see changes in a person's mood or how they react emotionally to things.
And this is such an incredibly important thing for families and caregivers to know. A person might not remember the facts of your visit, who you are, what you said, but they can often hang on to the feeling of that visit. That warm, positive emotion can stick around long after the details are gone. It just goes to show how powerful that human connection still is.
So as all these biological changes get worse and the symptoms advance, the need for support just grows and grows. Caregivers become absolutely essential. And simple little tools, like calendars or sticky notes on the fridge, they're not just about jogging a memory. They're about providing a sense of structure, of reassurance when the brain's own filing system is compromised.
So we've gone deep inside the brain. We've seen the plaques and the tangles and what they do, and understanding all that science is so important. But it all brings us back to what's really the most important question, isn't it? How do we keep seeing the person beyond the disease? Remembering that behind every forgotten name and every moment of confusion, there's still a person with a life story, with feelings, and with a need for love and connection. That's the most important part of this whole journey.